Alright, so this weekend, this Saturday, we got UFC Fight Night, Macau, I believe, in China, and it's going to be Piotr Jan versus Davison Figueiredo, and I'm really looking forward to this one. We've got some really good names on here, not too many, but a few, and then we've got a bunch of fights that I think are going to be really, really fun, okay, and maybe some guys that are going to be great prospects in the future. So this is definitely one that you want to watch the prelims and the main card. And this main event is great. This could be a co-main event on a big pay-per-view. This is a sick main event for a fight night. So I'm excited to talk about this one. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's just start at the main event. We got Piotr Jan versus Davison Figueiredo. And this is a sick fight. A few years ago, this probably would have been the highest level fight, or one of the highest level fights that you can make in the UFC. And it's still really good. Now, both of these guys, well, Piotr Jan hasn't been the most successful recently, but he has gotten his wins back. Davison Figueiredo has been really successful recently. He's just a little older, definitely past his prime, but when you go up a weight class like he has, you kind of rejuvenate yourself a little bit. And that flyweight cut was killing him, so he's kind of old for bantamweight as well. But I think the fact that he's feeling rejuvenated, he's cutting 10 pounds less, and he's still big for a bantamweight. He still has power. We saw that he dropped Cheeto. Sean O'Malley couldn't drop Cheeto in 2 fights. Davison Figueiredo is the real deal at bantamweight, and I think he's still a very elite level striker, elite level grappler, especially bringing that flyweight skill up to another very skilled weight class. And then Piotr Jan, we all know how good this guy is. Um, Physically, he could still be in his prime. I know he went on a bit of a losing streak, but that was against top opponents. And Davison Figueiredo is another top opponent, but he also had a bit of bad luck, I would say. I wouldn't say his losses were a fluke, but they were losses that he could have won. Plus, he looked bad against Marab, but everybody has looked bad against Marab. So, as far as who's going to win this one, man, it's close. I could see Davison Figueiredo dropping him. He's just proven that he has that power and a great delivery system. He's accurate, he's quick, he's technical, he can kick, he can box, he can take you down, which I think is going to be one of his main approaches in this, because Piotr Jan, as slick as Davison Figueiredo is on the feet, I think Piotr Jan is not a guy that you want to strike with unless you're Sean O'Malley, right? And even then, Piotr Jan was hitting him, he was landing. So, I think Davison Figueiredo, he's not going to be scared to stand with Piotr Jan, but he's going to want to work in the grappling. Now, Piotr Jan, he can grapple too. I don't think his jiu-jitsu is on the same level as Davison Figueiredo, but his wrestling, really good. His takedown defense, really, really good. And we saw that against Marab. Marab shot something like 30 takedowns in that fight. He set a record for takedowns. And then Piotr Jan set a record for takedowns stuffed. Now, Marab was mostly just shooting for volume, shooting to win the fight without having to do too much damage. But Marab is still a high-level wrestler. We saw how he took down Sean O'Malley. He couldn't take Piotr Jan down maybe once or twice out of 30 shots. Still impressive. Now, Piotr Jan, his boxing is so slick. If he was a champion right now, he'd probably be talked about as top 2, top 3 boxer in the UFC. But because he has taken a bit of a downward turn lately, and he did beat Song Yadong, and he did look good in that fight. But because of that, people look down on him a little more. But his boxing, I think, is still as good as ever, and he does have power in his hands. Now, I think Davison Figueiredo has the power advantage, but I think in the all-around boxing, kickboxing, I'm going to go with Piotr Jan. And, Piotr Jan is a nasty guy inside, not in a bad way, in a good way. He's competitive, and I know that losing streak killed him. And I know he doesn't want to start that losing streak again, especially against a former flyweight in a big main event against a former champion. I think we're going to see one of the best versions of Piotr Jan we've ever seen. I think it's going to be a war. I think they're both going to have moments, but I think Piotr Jan takes this one by decision. I don't see a finish here. Both of these guys are tough. Both of them can finish a fight, but they're bantamweights. And both of them have chins. Both of them are used to wars. I got Petr Yan in this one. Outboxing him, I think, is the main thing. I think he's going to be tighter with his hands. I think he's going to be faster, slicker. Even though Davison might be rocking him with some big shots occasionally, I think Petr Yan's going to be landing a lot more of the good shots. So I'm going to go with Petr Yan in this one in a really close 5-round war. Really excited for this one. Alright, moving on. We got Song Kanan versus Muslim Salikov. And this one's decent. Some kind of older welterweights. Muslim Salikov is considered really good by a lot of the people. Song Kanan, he's pretty good. He dropped Ian Gary. This is probably his most memorable moment recently. He does have some really slick boxing, some decent power in his hands, but he did end up getting boxed up badly by Ian Gary after he dropped him. And Muslim Salikov has taken a couple losses recently too. He's 40. He's really old. But these Russian guys sometimes don't age as much as Western or Eastern guys. So, man, I think Muslim is just more skilled at this point, more physically imposing as well. And I think he can work in the grappling more than Song Kanan can. I think he's physically just stronger, probably a bit more powerful. He's a really great striker as well. He's not as fast as he used to be, but I think he's going to have enough technique. He's going to have enough power to get this one done. So I'm going to go with Muslim Salikov by TKO. Yeah, I don't think these guys are going to go 3 rounds without one of them getting TKO'd. And unfortunately for Song Kanan, I think Muslim Salikov is going to get that TKO win. Alright, moving on, we got another great one. This could be on the main card of a good pay-per-view. We got Volkan Ozdemir versus Carlos Ulberg. Now, both of these guys have been on a pretty good streak in the light heavyweight division. Both of these guys have been knocking people out left and right. Volkan Ozdemir just came off of knocking Johnny Walker out again, and that was a nasty one. He dropped him, then a few seconds later dropped him again. Then the referee honestly should have stopped it sooner. He was just laying there. Volkan just loaded up, hit him one more time, and put him out cold, bad. Gotta feel bad for Johnny Walker at times like that. But Carlos Ulberg is coming off a 12-second KO of, I forget who exactly, but it was a decent light heavyweight opponent. And he just put him out. The guy rushed forward. He just put him out with a hook 12 seconds in. Now, I can't help but feel like Carlos Ulberg is a little overhyped. He has that city kickboxing hype around him. He's trained with Izzy, trained with Volk, guys like that. And yeah, he's very good. But he hasn't really fought anybody that good in the UFC, right? And when you watch him, you can tell he's good. He has power, he's pretty fast, pretty technical, but he hasn't really been tested in a war. Volkan Ozdemir, on the other hand, you can tell by the way he fights that he's fought in wars, right? In the Johnny Walker fight, he's just calmly walking towards him, hands up, taking shots, returning his own, walking forwards. Eventually he gets him backed up against the fence, and when he does, he lets out some nasty combinations. Hooks to the body, hooks up top, back up, jab, jab, 1-2, back in, hooks to the body. And he was really messing Johnny Walker up. And that was only a couple minutes in. He kind of broke Johnny Walker after a couple of minutes, which is impressive because, yeah, you can KO Johnny Walker, but it's not that easy to, outstrike him technically and break him, right? So I could see him doing that to Carlos Ulberg. And Volkan also has a pretty good chin. I think he can take a couple counters from Carlos Ulberg. Of course Carlos can knock him out. But I feel like Carlos hasn't fought anybody of his caliber, at least for a while. He's been fighting kind of the bottom of the light heavyweight division, and he has been annihilating them. But this is a big jump from his last fight, right? I can see Vulcan pressuring him against the fence and eventually just getting that TKO. So I'm going to go with Vulcan on this one by first or second round TKO. Unfortunately for Olberg, I think Volkan Ozdemir is going to back him up against the fence and break him. Alright, I want to get into this because this is going to be a lot of guys from Road to the UFC, right? I think this entire prelims is all guys from Road to the UFC. So I may make a second part to this video just breaking down these prelims because I'll be honest, I didn't watch Road to the UFC, right? I haven't seen these guys fight. I'm not going to make a prediction about something I don't know. That would be disingenuous of me. But this fight, I do know. Now, I know nothing about Jose Ochoa. I looked at his Tapology page, and he's a 7-0 guy, 23 years old, or 23 or 25 years old. A lot of TKOs, but I have seen him fight. I believe you say that Lanier Kavanaugh, and he's good. I watched him on the Contender Series. He got a nasty first or second round, I believe it was a straight right, and he put the guy out cold, which is not something that you see often at flyweight, and that's really exciting. Now, this guy Jose Ochoa, he is young, he is undefeated, and he looks like a serious prospect, but we've seen him, we haven't seen him, right? And I was looking back in Lanier's Tapology page. He has a few losses in the amateurs from a while ago, and I was thinking, why does he have these losses? Like, he didn't start his professional career until he was 2-2-2, and I was a little confused by that until I looked. These losses were from 2013, and he's currently 25. So this is a guy that started his amateur career when he was 14, right? This is the new generation of fighters, guys that have been training since they were kids, guys that have been in the cage since they were young teenagers. I'm just really excited to see just how good this level of guys can be, right? It's exciting because this is the first generation of UFC fighters that grew up watching UFC because it's still a relatively new sport. So this is just exciting to see. Yeah, and I got Lanier. I'm just going to assume he'll get it done by TKO. That's usually how it goes when you're one of these young prospects. You're going to go for it. Either you get a TKO or you lose, but I have faith in this guy. So we're going to go with a Lanier Kavanaugh TKO, first or second round. But Jose Ochoa also has a great record. He's also young. He could surprise me, okay? Alright, and I'm going to end the video right there for now. I might do a part 2 breaking down these Road to the UFC prelim fights.